Hello and welcome to Tartan Touchdown in conversation with our series of podcasts telling the stories of people throughout the sport of American football. Joining me for hosting tonight, and it's been a while since the double act have been together. It's Sarah. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. It's been a while. It's nice to be back to doing in conversations with. Obviously, the last podcast episode was a great little solo episode for me, but it's nice to be back with somebody else, which is always quite
Yes,
good. So yeah, looking
it's
forward to chatting to our guest.
perfect. Before I do introduce tonight's guest, make sure you are subscribed to us on YouTube and all podcast platforms to get our episodes the second they drop, and follow our Instagram and TikTok for all our latest content. Now, I feel like every time we record an episode, I say we have a very special guest. However, on this episode, we have taken it to the next level. Right, listen for this one, folks. She started an actual flag football league for her university in her country. She led her team to fifth place finish at the World Championships in 2024 while being the youngest player on her roster. In the last 12 months, she's taken her country to bronze at the World Games in China, then to silver at the IFF Continentals, and then played on an NFL field in the first ever flag football game in an NFL field. And that's not even half the story. Bonjour and bienvenue to Tartan Touchdown, Sarah Parker. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm great.
Perfect. That was a bit of a Jason Kelsey inspired introduction there, but it is well deserved, I will say.
Thank you. That was perfect.
When I reached out to you at the end of March to invite you to come on here, and you instantly replied back to me and said you'd love to join us. So thank you very much for making time to chat to us tonight. We're delighted to have you on.
Yeah, of course. It's rare that we have podcasts that actually give a lot of visibility to flags, so I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I do feel like our podcast sometimes is a bit too flag heavy, Sarah, but we don't care. We want to talk to everybody and anybody to tell their stories, so we're delighted to have you. With our in conversations, what we tend to do is we take our guests back to the start. We kind of rewind back to the earliest part of your kind of life. So let's go back to the start. Let's go back to Greenfield Park, Montreal. What are your earliest sporting memories?
Yeah, when I grew up, I was put into a variety of individual sports. I did dance, gymnastics. I did figure skating for a very long time. And then I kind of figured out at the age of like 11, 12, 13 years old that I was more of a team sport athlete. I tried ringette, so that's kind of like ice hockey. So I played ringette for a while, and then all throughout high school, I played basketball and flag. I tried out for the flag team, not really knowing what the sport was my first year of high school, and they put me at quarterback right away, and I never stopped since. It wasn't really like a main sport. All my friends or all my teammates that played with me in high school, it was like their second, third sport, and we only played in the spring, so the season was very short. It was really just like athletes from other sports. Once their seasons ended, they had an opportunity to come and try flag. So yeah. And then once I got to CJEP, which is between high school and university here in Quebec, there was no flag at my CJEP at that time. I didn't get recruited to any school to go and play. And I figured that I wasn't done being a student athlete, and I tried to develop the program there.
We'll get into a wee bit more detail about that wee second, all right? We
Yeah,
don't
of
want to give
course.
away all your story yet, right at the start. Going back, you obviously mentioned when you went to high school. I read this in another interview that you'd done. You used to throw the ball about with your mum in the neighbourhood, and that's when you went to high school. You were the only one
Mhm.
that really could play quarterback. Is that how did
Yeah,
that feel? Like being 12 years old and suddenly you're the quarterback of your high school flag football team?
I think there wasn't that much pressure related to it just because we were just like a group of friends wanting to continue and play another sport in high school. And I mean, the coaches I've had in high school have not have had much experience in flag. They played it in high school and then didn't have any other opportunities to play afterwards. So they just came back to coach. So yeah, it was really just fun. And I have a cousin that's exactly the same age as I am, and her high school was on the same street as mine. So a lot of like friendly competition. We always ended up playing against each other in basketball and flag, and her friends against my friends. So it was always something like super fun for me, and that I've never really felt any sort of pressure. I was just there to have fun and then have my family in
Yeah,
the stands watching us play. So yeah.
awesome. I say you selected at quarterback at the age of 12, and you've never looked back in that position.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Well, I've always been like in my different sports, in ringette. I was always like the one getting the assists and setting up plays, and same thing in basketball. So yeah, I just felt like it was kind of second nature for me to kind of be a little bit more strategic, be good at like setting
yeah.
up plays, and yeah. So it kind of came naturally to me, and then yeah, I've never looked back.
Perfect. And then you would then go on to college St Lambert, and you didn't have that flag program, and you mentioned yourself that that program was then started. Kind of talk us about the process from when you first decided this is what I want to do and kind of push this, and what kind of challenges you faced in that process.
Yeah, so my high school was actually across the street from where I went to CEGEP. So CEGEP between university and high school. So at lunchtime, I walked over there with my teammates from my high school and knocked on the sports director's door and asked if it was possible for us to have a flag team when we started in CEGEP. And his response was, well, English CEGEPs in Quebec are more towards like rugby. They play more rugby than they do flag football. And because rugby was kind of the equivalent of the tackle football, it was kind of like a challenge there. So for a year, I went to CEGEP without having a flag football team there, but I would, between my classes, go to the library, bring like a group of girls together, sign petitions, try and find resources. We registered our team in like just a tournament without being really affiliated with the school, but having girls from the school on it. And we ended up winning that tournament before actually having the flag football team started and the program started. So we kind of used that as leverage to say, we don't only have the numbers, but we also have the talent to be able to have a competitive team. And then the following year, we managed to build that team. And we needed to start in like the lowest division, which is Division 4 at the time. And we ended up having a perfect season, winning 60-0 in the finals. And the following year, they bumped us directly to Division 1, which is something that was like never heard of. So yeah, I would say that was like a pretty successful story. And like even today, the head coach is the same head coach that we had found back
Wow.
in 19. Yeah, really proud of that. And like to this day, whenever they have open practices, like I make an effort to show up and show support. And yeah, really proud of that. In May 2025, they actually inducted me in their Hall of Fame. So I was the youngest one to
Awesome.
be inducted in their Hall of Fame.
That's
So
awesome.
that was an incredible honor. So yeah, pretty big deal. I'm really proud of that. And to this day, the program is very successful. And yeah, very proud of that.
I mean, we'll kind of talk about other things you've done, but like that's to start with what you call your legacy at that age. That's very unheard of. Like in sports, just generally, that something you've done is still having that ongoing impact in youth in that area. It's incredible to hear.
Thank you. I feel like, coming out of high school, I didn't really understand the potential that I had in the sport because I wasn't recruited. And then I ended up kind of by accident representing my province. I just went to a random tryout because it was next to my home. And I ended up making the team that won provincials. And then I represented my province at nationals, which was something that I never thought could happen. And then that's the following year that I decided that I wanted to start the flag football program there because I wasn't done playing. So I think every single time that I've wanted to continue playing, I kind of had to build my own opportunities. I was never picked. I always created my own kind of environment, my own team, my own programs. And yeah, I'm very proud of that.
No, you should be. It's phenomenal to hear, like especially like I said, at that age to then go and do that. But then you would then go on to Concordia University, and you would then have to do it again, but on an even bigger scale this time. I read one of your previous interviews, like we discussed it there. Not only did you start a team, you effectively started a league for universities as well. Talk us through. I did read that all kind of happened during the COVID lockdown. Can I talk us through that process and how the university team came about, and then the league?
Yeah. So everyone knows about the COVID-19 pandemic. We were all isolated in our homes, especially in Canada. We spent a lot of time locked down. Um, and we brought a group of university girls together. Our OC for Team Canada, Alexandre Desjardins, also was a tremendous help. He kind of helped us organize the whole thing. We had small committees of girls in every single university come together on all of our sides in our respective universities, trying to figure out what we needed for each university to kind of develop every single team. And then once we know like the foundation of building a team in every single university, because not all the requirements are the same from one school to the next. Once we have confirmation that we're able to have a certain number of teams, then we can bring it to the league and then try and develop the league. So from the very start, the provincial organization, which is the RSEQ in Quebec, was interested in kind of taking hold of the project. So we started off as club teams. So it was completely student run. For myself at Concordia, starting it up, my mom like helped me so much. We shopped for all the equipment. We designed the jerseys. We had to book the field. We even hired our coaches that are still there today. So we played 4 years as a club sport, and there was so much success that we started having national tournaments, so post high school tournaments with like teams across the entire country. And now this year, so my 5th season, my last season, we were officially a varsity team representing like our universities, our school teams. We called each other bees before because we weren't allowed to be stingers, but now we were officially stingers this season. So yeah, it was really cool to be able to be a part of kind of have that recognition from our university. Yeah, we came a long way. Even the
Yeah.
talent at the beginning, we had to like pick girls that didn't have that much experience in flag at all and try and build them up and make them competitive. And now we're getting rookies that are challenging our veterans that have so much talent, that have had opportunities and resources that we didn't have when we were in high school and CJEP. So it's incredible to see how much the sport has been evolving and the more and more opportunities and resources that we're getting. So I'm excited to see what's next for the University League. I
Yeah.
personally retired after my last tournament a couple weeks ago, but I'll be returning to Concordia as a coach because I
Oh,
just
that's awesome.
loved my experience there. I love the coaches there, so I'm not done. I'm not done working with them.
I think you've read my questions before we came on here, because you answered 2 of my questions before I've even asked you them.
So
So I'll go back first. Obviously, like you've put all that hard work in to create this team at Concordia. For you personally, when you got that recognition of a varsity team and you got that Stingers name, how much did that mean to you?
it meant so much. I feel like the community of flag in Quebec is so strong and resilient because we've had to build every single platform and team and program that we've played in. I feel like every single one of us that are kind of like my age level, a little bit older, we're all pioneers of the sport. We all had an impact on the sport at one point in our lives. So yeah, having that recognition was incredible. Kind of the same, I would say it was almost like the same feeling as when they announced that flag was going to be at the Olympics. It's like, wow. For once, like people actually believe in us, want to give us these resources, these opportunities for us to grow and evolve without having to worry about being an administrator, club president, being when I was playing at Concordia, I was the team captain, I was doing the budget, I was the club president, and I was also acting as the therapist for the team because I graduated in athletic therapy. So it's a lot of responsibility to ask. And for once, the girls we still have to manage budget and like, yeah, we still have to do a couple of those things in university, but just kind of taking some of that weight off the girls and them being able to just be athletes and focus on just showing up to practice and their trainings and working on themselves individually, not having to do all those things
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
Yeah. How did you manage to balance all those roles?
Just not, I don't really think, well, I mean, when I show up to the field, I'm just happy to be there. So whether I'm taping, I'm throwing balls, I'm carrying the big bag with all the balls, like at the end of the day, I just wanted to practice and play and I got that chance. So
Did you finish third this year? Is that correct? In the national championship for the Concordia?
yeah, we haven't won a national championship, unfortunately. We've won 1 bronze and 2 silvers.
Right,
And
okay, fair.
yeah, we've won 1 provincial championship in 2024.
And that's
And
the one I was thinking of, yeah.
yeah, and this year we were finalists again. Université de Montréal were the national champions and provincial champions this year.
Yeah. So you kind
Yeah.
of mentioned there that this year was your last, that was your last game, obviously, at the university, going to go back and coach. But how would you sum up the last kind of 3 or 4 years as a player for the Stingers?
Yeah. Honestly, an incredible learning experience. Watching the sport grow was incredible. The teammates I've made, the girls I've met, the relationships I've built. I feel like that's kind of what I take away from my experience at Concordia. My receiver, number 15 from the national team, Caroline Maquin-Joubert, she was my receiver at Concordia since the very first year. I'm really grateful for having her as a teammate and being able to build our chemistry and our relationship and being like incredible friends from Concordia to Sub-Zero to the national team. And yeah, super grateful for the coaches also that hopped on board. They don't get paid very much, but they really devote a lot of time and energy into the program. And I'm really grateful for them for kind of like blindly hopping in and sacrificing some time from their families to come and help out and build the program with me. So yeah, I'm just super grateful for all the relationships and the people I've met and I've got to work with over the years. And I feel like that was a very important kind of step in my journey and getting me better. So
Yeah, that was great. Obviously, we kind of discuss all the processes that you've been through and all the fights you've had to create a team. It just feels right that you go back and be a coach again. It just feels as if that's just the right thing to happen.
yeah, absolutely. I really want to stay involved in the team as much as I can and give back to the girls because they're so motivated and they're so good. I feel like I can also benefit from learning from them as much as I can try and help guide them to get better also.
Excellent. We had a chat a couple of weeks ago through messaging. You talked about you were doing your thesis at university, and it's on the movement competence in youth flag players. You can talk us through that topic and why you chose that topic for your thesis.
Yeah, of course. So my thesis, my master's was in exercise science at Concordia University. I was really interested in, I was working as a teaching assistant over there and teaching labs for athletic therapy. And I really enjoyed teaching. And I wasn't done studying. I loved Concordia too much. I wanted to get the opportunity to play as a stinger also. So I decided to pursue my master's degree. And essentially, my lab supervisor, Richard Demont, he works a lot with movement competence in children. And I thought that it was really interesting if I could look at how flag players kind of perform in movement competence compared to other sports. Movement competence is like the child's ability to move properly. So essentially looking at like different functional movements that they can perform and grading them and then identifying whether they have certain deficits somewhere that we can try and target and intervene to try and make them better, keep them healthy, but also help them perform better on the field while kind of making it good for the age range between the age of 8 and 12. And yeah, just studying a lot. Also, I was looking at kind of the effects of youth sports specialization on flag. So in Montreal area, a lot of flag football players play multiple sports. And it's been shown in the research that if you play multiple sports as a child, you have better movement competence and you kind of are healthier in the long run. You participate in sport later on in life and you're just healthier later on when you're grown and you just keep good healthy habits. So yeah, I kind of like my research kind of supported that point where a lot of the flag football athletes played multiple sports, which made them perform really well on the functional tests and the movement competence tests. And at the end of the day, when I look at our national team, a lot of the athletes played multiple sports growing up. And I would say that the athletes that played many sports, a variety of sports, are the ones that perform the best on the field, that have like the best IQ, that are more agile. So it was really interesting to see and kind of relate how they move as children and then kind of see the impacts later on.
Yeah, it's phenomenally interesting to get to hear that kind of study. And again, it's another example of you giving back to the sport, which is again phenomenal. It's one of those things that you say, like bodies at a young age, that's when you need to get them moving. And if you're stuck to one sport, like you said, those other parts of your body aren't going to develop in that athletic way. So it's great to see that that's something that's being considered. It's something now that if you think back to flag football, when you started playing, you wouldn't have had these types of studies. You wouldn't have had this kind of research into how the game is played. Like, how much has the game grown in Canada since you started playing it?
It's grown so much. Now we kind of see it because there's like a shortage of refs. They're looking for coaches everywhere because so many girls want to play. So I think not only more girls are interested in playing flag football, but the quality of play is just incredible. I'm meeting young girls that are already so good at an age that I hadn't even touched a football yet. So I think the future of Canada flag football is very bright. And yeah, I'm excited to see what's next.
And what would you put that growth down to? What do you think has caused it to grow so quickly, especially in Canada? Because we know it's grown across the world very quickly, but is there anything specific you think in Canada that's caused it to grow so quickly?
Specifically in Quebec, I feel like flag football really grew at a tremendous pace. I think that just the fact that the university flag football league was developed, and now there's more interest in girls trying out in elementary school, high school, because now they know that they have kind of a longer pathway. And once they hit university, then they actually also have opportunities to play for their province, but also for their country. Yeah, I think that the opportunities and everything that was developed with like the IFAF championships and also the visibility that's been given to us a little bit more throughout the years really motivate the girls to try and like push a little bit harder in that sport and take advantage of all those opportunities to eventually hope at making either a provincial team or a national team one day, because the level of the level of flag in Quebec is very impressive. I think it's a little bit better than all the other provinces. On the Canadian national team last year, 12 out of the 12 athletes were actually from the province of Quebec, because we're very talented and we have great quality coaches. So that really helped us kind of get to a higher level. And of course, when you practice and play against the best, you get better. So the sport in Quebec has grown tremendously. And I feel also that people are trying to give us a little bit more visibility. And that really helps. And that kind of encourages young girls to try out and play a little bit more. And now they have role models to look up to, which is awesome. They look up to all the girls on the national team, which is awesome. I've hadn't had the opportunity to have kind of that role model figure, like person to look up to in flag, because we weren't given kind of that visibility and those girls to look up to. So yeah, I think that plays a big role, especially also with the Olympics for sure.
Yeah.
I think that they saw that the Canadian national team is very strong and that we actually have a chance to qualify our country for the Olympics. So then there's also that dream of wanting to be an Olympian one day. For sure, that's a big motivator also.
Yeah. It's something that's you brought up there, something we've noticed across the world. It's not just in Canada that this pathway didn't exist before. So you'd have young boys and girls playing flag football. They would get to a certain age and then that was it. There was no club teams, there was no school teams, there was no university teams. So that pathway that we're starting to see, especially across the major countries, it's imperative for the sport's future that becomes the norm, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. We're also fortunate enough to have a lot of civil leagues, recreational leagues around the Montreal area with a lot of different divisions. When I first started in that league back in 2019, I want to say, they only had a co-ed division, which is the only division that girls could play in. It was only male and co-ed. And then once the University Flag Football League started, there was more of a demand for us to have our own division. So then a 5-on-5 women's division was developed after that. And now we have like 3 different divisions of women's. We have 3 different divisions of co-ed. So now everyone kind of has the opportunity to play, whether it's in stronger divisions, weaker divisions. And that's kind of how we play with Sub-Zero. We play in that league in the Montreal area.
Yeah. And you kind of, it's so funny, Dan said how like you answered like his kind of questions earlier, like you've actually perfectly segued into like kind of the like next segment we're going to talk about. And obviously you mentioned before we went on air that Canada's obviously reaction and support kind of women's sport in particular is probably a lot more positive than potentially some other countries kind of around the world. But kind of from your perspective, like what do you think are maybe some of the biggest challenges facing like women like playing flag football in Canada like today? Is it access? Is it equipment? Like what do you think it is?
So we're really fortunate. I feel like Football Canada gives us the exact same support as they give the men's team. We're really fortunate to have a lot of support funding from their end. So I would say that in the world of flag football, we don't really face those kinds of challenges because a lot of the men's side have a tremendous respect for us because let's say if we look at the University Flag Football League, we've developed that for ourselves. This is like our sport. Whereas it happens often that men kind of gravitate towards flag once they retire from their tackle football career. So they have this respect for us because they understand that it's kind of our sport. We've built it for ourselves. We developed it on our end. And if we look at flag football in Quebec, we developed different senior teams. So we started with the North at first, and then we became Sub-Zero a little bit later on. But we used to build those teams and travel to the States. And they also had sometimes like a male team from the same area travel with us also. And the women's team always had so much success and we were really good. We trained a lot. We were super motivated. And I think that just having those kinds of results, they understood that, okay, like these girls are serious and like they're really good and we can actually learn from them. But when it comes to like the football world in general, of course, like in the past, there were some instances where people didn't really take it seriously, where they'd be like, oh, you're a quarterback, so like how far can you throw? you can actually throw. They don't really take it seriously on that end, but in the world of flag, I would say that it's only respect and only support. But I did actually have a couple internships with the Montreal Alouettes, which is the professional team in Montreal in the CFL. And the CFL actually has different programs to try and support women in football. So they have a women in football program, and every year they nominate a woman for every single CFL team for them to experience kind of like the professional side of football. And from what I've seen, m- the players only have respect for those women. They listen. They're always super impressed. And yeah, I would say that in Canada we don't really have like that kind of hate. I feel like the narrative is kind of flipped here, which is awesome. And it's a very welcoming environment for young girls to come. I remember starting to train with quarterback movement, which is my quarterback coach. I used to be the only girl quarterback throwing with him. And it happened really often where I was in a session where only guys were there. And they've never made me feel bad for throwing a small ball or not throwing as far, or they were really supportive and encouraging. And yeah, they never treated me differently. So I would say that I've never really had to experience something negative being in the flag or the football world. And I think everyone should kind of have that positive experience for sure.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I feel like you being able to kind of be brought up and kind of around that really like positive environment is kind of a testament to like obviously the success and kind of your drive and your motivation. Because if you're never feeling like you're having to prove yourself with other people, if you feel that respect, then obviously you're going to turn up and you're going to perform at your best. So I think that's a real like mantra to take. If no one else takes anything from this episode, it should be that, is that, you know, when you support and you develop people correctly, this is the results you get from it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was awesome. Do you, I mean, obviously probably not in Canada, but do you feel like maybe women's flag football has to like prove itself in the way that men's sport doesn't, like maybe kind of more globally as opposed to just in Canada?
That's a great question. Globally, I feel like people have this. I feel like flag football, women's flag football and men's flag football, when you watch it, it looks like two totally different sports, and they both have like different things to appreciate about them. So I don't think that it's like a men's flag football versus women's flag football, because I feel like it's hard to compare them, and they both have their different aspects that you can enjoy. So I wouldn't say that it's really a competition one against the other. I also think that we're kind of in the era of professional women's sports, and people make an effort, a conscious effort to try and give us more visibility. So like having the NFL making those commercials and having women as like their stars and shining light on them, or the Under Armour campaigns and the stuff like that really allow us to kind of shine the light on the women's teams. I mean, on both sides, we really just want to grow the sport, but at the same time, like the respect that these big names give to women is really awesome, really.
Yeah, no, totally for sure. I remember seeing it, like it was when everything started to come through for like the Under Armour advert and everything else, and I was like, I cannot believe that this is the where we're going to, like in a good way. I was not shocked, but it's just so rare to find like an organization which is primarily like a male focused organization like the NFL really pushing like women and knowing where it's going to be. And I know that obviously the commissioner is a massive like flag football and like is trying constantly to get women playing it because he knows the value of it. Kind of on a topic that's kind of is related to obviously we're talking about, but maybe not flag football specifically. We kind of talk openly in a lot of our in conversation with, especially with female guests, about like how we're now discussing more openly like how women's health has a real impact like when you're playing like a sport. So like your recovery period, like your hormone cycles, and how like athletes like physically respond to training kind of during that. Do you kind of feel like there's a positive kind of aspect around that in kind of like Canadian football in particular, or is it still something that's maybe not a taboo subject, but no one really talks about it?
Well, on our team, we're fortunate enough to have a woman as a head coach. So her name is Rachel Lessard. She's amazing. And I feel like on our end, she's very open to adjusting to whatever individual athletes need. But of course, I think from a research and scientific kind of standpoint, I know that women going through, there's a certain stage in their menstrual cycle where they are producing a certain hormone that creates a little bit more laxity in joints and stuff, which kind of will increase your risks of having like potential knee injuries, ankle injuries, stuff like that. So yeah, of course, female athletes have multiple challenges, and that being one of them. But I think it's just an example of how strong and resilient we are, and how we're able to kind of overcome those tough days and still be able to show up and perform the best that we can. Yeah, I think we're really strong human beings, and that we can do anything. That's pretty much that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you mentioned as well when talking about like how then it has an impact on obviously kind of what you're producing kind of and you like in the body at the time, like you're going through obviously that specific part. And particularly things like ACL injuries have a really obviously a much higher chance of that happening to you. Do you think, as well as kind of like being obviously your researcher and your kind of like that kind of medical background, do you think it's something like players and coaches are much more aware of now? Like even compared to what 5 years ago?
Yeah. Well, we hear a lot that these days ATs, physios, researchers say that there's kind of this epidemic of ACL injuries, ACL tears, and that we kind of have to do something about it. A lot of different research labs have developed different interventions to try and reduce the risk. So like making sure that the hamstring to quad ratio is good and that you're creating that stability within your knee, and you have the physical muscular kind of ideal condition to try and prevent those injuries. Obviously, there's no perfect science, and you can't necessarily prevent them 100%, but you can of course try and put you in a better position to stay healthy throughout your season. I think that the most challenging part in flag is that we don't really have an identified off season where athletes can take the time in the weight room to either develop skills to perform better, but also to prevent and like create strength to prevent injuries. We have tournaments every 2 weekends, like there are USA flag tournaments every weekend, and we're traveling back and forth, and there's a university league, and then it's a national team, and then there's Tampa, and then it kind of never stops. So I think that that's really just the biggest challenge, is trying to figure out when to take a break and when to train and protect your body from injuries and take the time to get better. I would say that that's the biggest challenge when it comes to physical preparation, but also injury prevention.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of like, despite all those challenges, obviously we've just like not long spoken about how the growth of women's flag football in Canada has been incredible. Like what gives you optimism about where the sport is heading next, and kind of that development around kind of like female health and like making sure that like women have a voice in that and their like in their bodies and what they're able to produce?
Yeah, well, I think just discussing it on these types of platforms and giving that visibility and talking about it openly and not being ashamed of it, and just being able to sensitize people to it, because not a lot of people think about it. It's something that we don't openly share with people. But yeah, for sure, just creating the narrative that like, don't be shy, you can talk about it. We want you to be safe, stay healthy. So any sort of accommodation that you might need, at the end of the day, you want to perform your best when you get to those important games. So yeah, just being more open about it for sure, talking about it, and then adjusting anything to try and make it work out.
Perfect, Sarah. It's great to hear that you're having positive experiences, because we kind of spoke about it before. We've spoke to many guests in the past where it's been the complete opposite. So to hear the flip side of that, it makes such a difference. And Sarah will tell you, I have been on my soapbox so many times about this topic. I mean, I'm a massive supporter of it, and this is why we started these conversations, and we have it with every female guest. So we do appreciate your kind of openness and honesty about talking about that topic. So we do appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course.
You have talked a few times about Sub-Zero throughout our conversation so far, but we've not went into any great depth about them. So let's talk about them now. You kind of put a team of elite players together and created Sub-Zero. Is that kind of how it all came together?
So we started Sub-Zero in summer of 2023. We were getting ready for the national championships. So in 2023, basically the national team selection was whichever team won the national championship was the team representing Canada and Finland the following summer. So it wasn't necessarily like a hand-picked selection where they had like an ID camp and a tryout and they had the best players on the field in Finland. So obviously you're trying to build your roster so you can have the strongest team and the most performing team. So it increases your chance of like winning that final game and representing your country later. We've had a lot of bumps in the road. We ended up not having a coach like maybe a month and a half before nationals. We had 2 empty spots on our roster. We brought back one player out of retirement. Her name is Sabrina Gervais. So she plays on the national team now, but she took a break from flag. She's actually a mom, so she has 9-year-old twins. And
Wow.
we were desperate to fill those spots. So we brought on board Catherine Gaumont. She played snapper, but we had a spot on defense. So we asked her to come and play defense for us. And we brought Sabrina Gervais out of retirement to come and fill in for us. We ended up winning that tournament by 1 point. So that's one decisive point that makes the difference between representing your country and not representing your country, which is crazy if you think about it. And today, those two are still on the national team. Catherine still plays defense. Sab is the defensive captain. So it was kind of like, I think that life has a funny way of making things happen. I thought that 6 weeks before the national tournament, there was no way that we were going to win because everything that could have went wrong. And I was ready to be like, well, you know what? I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my best and I'm just going to have fun and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And the girls that were on the team, it was like a mix of tackle girls, younger girls, girls coming out of retirement, offensive players playing defense. It was like so many different personalities and so many different eras of flag football. But then the following year, we trained, we practiced together, and we became so close. I feel like that kind of bond and experience is like something that I'll never be able to live ever again because I had teammates from so many different backgrounds, so many different personalities, and we ended up it was just an incredible experience. I love every single one of those girls. I'm going to remember that season forever. And we ended up going to Finland, and obviously we didn't get the result that we wanted. We were aiming to try and get a medal for sure. Of course, we were happy because we managed to qualify the team for the World Games of the following summer. The rankings ended up not really playing in our favor, and we ended up having to play Mexico pretty early on in the playoffs. And that was unfortunate.
If you think back though, like you start the team in 2023, you go through this whole amazing process of winning the national championship. Basically, 1 point means you now become Team Canada, and then suddenly you're in Finland the year after, representing your country. Like, yeah, you said you finished fifth, you wanted to medal, but if you just think back on that 18-month period, that's crazy. Like a team's come together, not even just to compete at a domestic level. You've suddenly went to the World Championships and finished fifth. That's incredible.
Yeah, we were so determined because we knew that going into that tournament, we were underdogs. There were 2 other teams from the Montreal area, one of which the two open spots were because 2 of our teammates at the time thought they had a better chance at winning if they played on another team. So they left our team. So at that point, I was like, well, no one believes in us. Like, they don't think that we're going to win. And I just feel like that kind of gave us kind of like the energy and the character to go and get that championship. So I feel like that also played into how much that experience meant to me because all the girls that I went through the journey with had kind of like the same drive and the same passion as I did.
I mean, like, I didn't know that was a selection process from Canada until I was doing my research to chat to you tonight. I was like, it was just a crazy thing. I think that's how they decide on the national team. But in a way, it kind of makes sense because in that team have got the chemistry already. So I can see why they've done that. I believe they have changed it now. It's more kind of tryouts and camps and stuff like that now. But going back to then, like you went to Finland, the first kind of representation of your national team and it was at a World Championship. How did that feel for you as the leader of the team, as a quarterback for the team?
Going to Finland was, the whole process leading up to it was really challenging because the coaches that were coaching our team automatically became the coaches of the national team. And at first, he wanted to make sure that the quarterback going to Finland was the best, and they have like the power on the roster. They can change whoever they want. That was present at the national championship. So if they thought that a player from another province was good enough to be on the team, they're allowed to replace one girl from another. So throughout the entire year, I had 3 quarterbacks come to our practices and try out and try to take my spot. And I feel like it just builds character. It builds adversity. You go through hardship. You have good practices, you have bad practices. But at the end of the day, I showed up to Finland and I was never that confident in my capabilities and my game. I was ready for that tournament. I was overall, I think that that's the first time that after going through all of those hard things, I proved to myself that I was good enough to play on that stage. And I'm I'm somewhat happy with the results that we've had. Obviously, we wanted to win a medal, but I think it was an incredible learning experience for me, and it really contributed to the player that I am today, for sure.
If we move forward, we move into 2025. So you had that phenomenal year in 2024 going to Finland, and that. If we get to 2025, it just gets even crazier for you. And it's not even a crazy year to say. There was a crazy 3 months right at the end of the year. So let's go through it in order. So first of all, you mentioned yourself. He's qualified for the World Games in China. So
Mhm.
we followed the World Games very closely from the UK. So we did get to see a lot of you guys playing over there. It was a great experience to watch. Top 8 teams in the world going for those kind of positions and winning that kind of the World Games. How was that experience for you going up against, like, you are playing the best of the best in a small tournament? Like, what was the experience like?
It was a very intense summer. The the selection process completely changed from the previous year to that year. So it was the first time that we were running through that process. So they had identification camps in every single province and then a top 50 camp to select your top 24 athletes. And at first, I was selected on the top 18. So I wasn't on the traveling 12 at the very beginning. I feel like the process was very unpredictable. You didn't really know whether the top 50, the top 24, if the athletes were going to be scattered all over the country or if they were going to be kind of in the same area. So, of course, it was challenging for the players, but I think it was also challenging for the coaches and the people running the high performance program because, well, you have to go with the flow and figure things out depending on what your roster looks like and where we're going to train. We only had 77 days from when the team was formed to China. So that leaves a really short time frame to prepare for that. And I mean, I worked my ass off in the summer just to make sure that I was going to be the one going to China. And I managed to once again prove myself right, get my spot on the roster. And when I was there, it was worth, I mean, all the hard work that I put in. It was an incredible experience. We felt like professional athletes for a whole week. It was crazy. The village, it really gives you a taste of what the Olympics look like. We were treated like royalty. No, it was insane. It was insane. Just the quality of the stream. My friends and family back home have ever watched a game as if like we were on professional television. Like
Yeah.
it was incredible. And then just being able to live that with my friends and bringing home a medal. So I actually won that medal on my mom's birthday, which is incredible. So
Awesome.
I managed to bring her a medal back home for her birthday. Yeah, that whole experience was incredible. And then unfortunately at the end of the whole trip, Air Canada decided to have a strike and ended up
That's right. I forgot you get
being
stuck.
stuck
That's
there.
right. I
Yeah,
forgot about that.
we got stuck there for an additional week. So we stayed downtown Chengdu and got to eat the local cuisine and walk around and try like kind of be tourists for the week and then come back, which made our training for Panama a lot shorter than expected
Yeah.
because we were supposed to use that week to kind of rest and recover and then start the following week. So yeah, Air Canada had different plans for us, but we still managed to get good results in Panama after that.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. I remember following it that at the time and you was getting stuck over there and following it all on social media. I mean, it must have been in a way like when you went there for the tournament, it was very intense and it was all about the tournament and training and all that. So it must have been good to kind of have that bit of downtime afterwards, as much as it was unplanned. But for you guys as a team to have that downtime together must have been another way to build great chemistry together.
Yeah, for sure. I think also because we're like a new program and a new team, we didn't have as many resources as maybe other countries did. So we only had like our 3 coaches, and our therapist traveling with us. So in between games or like when we got back to the village, the athlete village at night, we need to break down film, like cut the segments, put it on huddle, and sometimes we'd go to bed at like 2, 3 a.m. We had players game planning defense with our DC until like very early in the morning and then going to bed for a couple hours, and we're expected to show up and play and perform at the highest level. So yeah, it was very challenging. We had players prepping the footballs because we didn't have an equipment manager at that point. So we had a girl bring like her drill and her products and then we were scrubbing footballs in meetings, and it was, yeah, we had a lot of challenges when we traveled to China and Panama after that. But I think more and more we're getting more resources and more support on that end. But it was a very intense tournament because we couldn't just be players. We couldn't just see the game plan and see it be done. And we needed to actually like work really hard behind the scenes to make sure that we showed up on the field and we were prepared.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're very quickly followed up from China with the IFAF Continentals in Panama, and you got off to a great start. And that you went 3-0 in the group, including beating Mexico 26-25. So if I take it back now, we're only 3 years into you being a national team, and suddenly you're beating Mexico in a continental championship. Talk us through the kind of emotions of that victory.
We're a very hardworking group. We are ready for any sort of challenge. We're gonna work hard until we get the results that we want. And I think that was just one stepping stone and um, one kind of statement that we are proud of and that we're going to keep in the back of our minds. Obviously, the final didn't go the way that we wanted. We weren't able to play that second half. So we're confident, and we know that if we had the chance to play that second half, the outcome maybe would not have been the same. So we're excited to get to have that rematch and prove to ourselves that the outcome could have been different.
As you mentioned, the final, for those that don't know, the final was 12-0 to Mexico at one point, and you guys were driving down the field to kind of get yourselves back into the game, where these were called off for weather. You then wouldn't then be able to take back the field again. IFAF rules state that as a result of Mexico effectively being 2 scores ahead, they were declared the winners, and you guys picked up the silver medal.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you to say anything controversial. I'm not going to ask you to kind of catch out here, but what was your thoughts and feelings when that was decided that's what was going to happen?
Well, obviously, we were very upset about it. You work really hard to try and make it to those big medal games. And I think that the energy and the momentum was kind of on our side. And we just didn't get the opportunity to be able to come back in the game and try and win it, because I think that a 12-point deficit in those kinds of games, you never know what can happen, really. So, yeah, of course, we felt really upset. But at the end of the day, I feel like we kind of used that medal as motivation for the next time. If the situation wasn't like it was, and let's say we didn't finish the half, or we were losing 12-6 and we became co-champions, because I don't think that we would have had the same satisfaction as if we actually won the game in the regular time. Yeah, I think that if we had a gold medal, we wouldn't have really felt like we earned it that much. So we're kind of just using that silver medal as a reminder that we're going to go get it next time.
Yeah, that silver medal did mean he's kind of broke that USA and Mexico monopoly that we've seen for years as well. And it did guarantee you guys a spot at World Flag in 2026. As much as it didn't kind of pan out the way you wanted to, you must be really proud of your performances throughout the tournament. And coming home with a silver medal in those circumstances, maybe not the way you'd want to, but at the start of the tournament to come home with a silver medal, that probably would have made you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. We were such a young team. Like I mentioned, we had 77 days from the moment the team was formed to our first tournament in China. So earning a silver medal with just 77 days of practice and preparation, I would say is a huge accomplishment. Yeah. So, I mean, now we just get to build on what we built last year, and hopefully we get really good results also this year.
Yeah. Again, as I mentioned, this was a very busy period for you guys. Just generally, 2 weeks after Panama, you're suddenly on a different field with a lot more eyes on you, and maybe not as kind of pressured environment. You guys, halftime whistle goes, Bills versus Patriots in the NFL, and you guys take to the field to play a flag game against USA at halftime in an NFL game. Talk us through that whole experience, like from when you first heard that it was going to happen right through to the game itself. I want to hear how that all happened and how it made you feel and everything about it.
Well, it was incredible. Before then, I had only been to one NFL game, so it was my second game. And It was crazy. We heard from staff that it was the first time that so many people stayed seated in their seats to watch the halftime. So, yeah, that was incredible. The energy was insane. We had a hard time hearing each other because it was so loud in there. And, yeah, just the little snippets that they showed on TV, I think was really cool. Obviously, would have wanted it to last a little bit longer. It was very short. I think it was just like 4 minutes, 4 really intense minutes, but, it was a
Yeah.
lot of fun, and I feel like we kind of earned that kind of opportunity. It was really fun. We traveled all the way to Buffalo in a bus, so, it was a chance for us to see each other again after the intense summer that we had lived together. So just finding each other again and spending time together was really fun. And then, yeah, the Bills were amazing. They hosted us. We were super well treated. We had a blast, and, yeah, it was a lot of fun. We practiced on the field, and,
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Awesome.
a really cool experience.
Let's just, I'll talk you through like a hypothetical situation. Let's take you back to 12-year-old Sarah, being selected for quarterback for a high school. If you told her then that she'd be taking the field to an NFL game to play a flag football game, would she have believed it?
Never, never.
It is crazy. Like, and it's something we talked about earlier on. The flag is now getting that recognition. Like, I played flag football a lot longer ago than you'd played. I played it 20 years ago when we were playing on public parks. You were just finding bits of grass to play a game. There was no pitches, there was no lines. You're playing with cones. To now see the sport where it is 20 years later, it's incredible for me to watch. So, in your short space of time, the growth has been phenomenal. But for me, for the whole last 20 years, I would never have imagined that this is where we would be in 2026. So it's phenomenal to see that that has happened.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for how much the sport has grown and how I've grown with it, so awesome.
Yeah. Let's bring us back into it. So we're sitting in 2026 now. Let's kind of take ourselves towards the present day. So in terms of what we mentioned there about Sub-Zero and your tournaments, your season's been ongoing at the moment. Is that kind of, you kind of finished the regular season back towards senior championships to come in June? How's your season going so far?
So we played with Sub-Zero in the winter season. We went to Tampa. We always go there to try and just have fun and be together. We are playing in the Women's 1 division final this weekend on Saturday. So our season went really well. We're hoping to get another championship this weekend. And then Sub-Zero was kind of put on the back burner until next year, obviously, because our focus needs to be with the national team. Sub-Zero is my baby. I created it back in 2023. It's very close to my heart, and a lot of my friends are on that team. So it's always a blast being able to play with them and just have fun. So yeah, that's it. First, for now, Sub-Zero, we're playing this weekend, and then it's a little break until the next winter, well, next fall season probably, since I won't be
Yeah.
going back to Concordia. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can kind of mention to yourself the focus after this weekend will then shift towards Canada and Dusseldorf in 2026. So, for the
Mhm.
for the national team and for you, what does the next 3 months look like in terms of getting prepared for Dusseldorf?
Yeah. So right now we know what the top 24 looks like. We are starting practices next week actually. And we have a couple training camps, 2 in Montreal, which is where most of the players are from. And then we're going back to Chula Vista, which is the Olympic Athlete Training Center in California. It's always a blast going there. It's so much fun and it's so nice. And then we it's we've been talking about going to China for another training camp to train with the Chinese national team and maybe Team Australia, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me
Yeah.
on it, but yeah, those are those are kind of that's the kind of information that was shared with us when
Yeah.
we found out that we made the top 24. Yeah, for the traveling team, we're only going to know by the end of July if we're going to
July.
Dusseldorf. Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, as you mentioned yourself, like you're obviously training in Montreal, you're training in California, you're training in China. It's a good opportunity for you to spend a good bit of time together as a team and kind of get that build towards the stuff, making sure you build those relationships on and off the field. Like, as a national team, that you maybe, obviously you said some of your teammates at Sub-Zero are obviously in the national team, but when you all come together, how important is that off the field relationship for on the field performance for the national team?
I think it's super important. Just the fact that the roster is so small, you kind of naturally develop really strong ties with your teammates. Obviously, it's super important to kind of know how each player operates. As a quarterback, I kind of need to know what sort of personalities I'm dealing with and which ways certain players want to be addressed in certain situations. So Yeah, it's really important to get to know your teammates, get to know your players. That way, I feel like it's easier to build chemistry and for everyone to be on the same page. But we always have like team meetings to talk about like our team culture, our DNA. We separate into our units, have different objectives and values for the different positions also. So we get together by position and talk about what kind of culture we want to have for each position, for each unit, and then for the entire team. So those are kind of workshops that we think are really important just to make sure that we build those strong relationships and that chemistry. Yeah. So obviously
Excellent.
super important, especially on a small team.
Yeah. Come Dusseldorf, hopefully we'll see you there. But your three opponents you're up against, you've got familiar foes in Panama and Brazil that you'll know quite a bit about already. And you've also got the team I like to call the Mavericks, Japan, because you don't know what you're going to get with Japan. They are so creative and some of the plays that they came out with, you're like, where do you even think that up? What's your kind of makeup of those three opponents that you've got come Dusseldorf?
So we don't take any of those teams lightly. For Panama, the game was really close. Same thing for Japan. We won on the last play of the game when we were in China. So we know that our pool is pretty strong and that we need to be ready for every single team that we're going to meet in Dusseldorf. Obviously, we're trying to prepare so we can be ready for any sort of situation, whether I think we're pretty good at being able to adjust against different teams. So I'm excited to see what they're going to show up with. And yeah, my favorite part of the game is
Yeah, I mean, what's great about these World Championships? We've mentioned already the sport has grown globally massively, and at these World Championships, we've got teams. We've got Brazil coming, we've got America Samoa coming, Slovenia, Nigeria. To see these countries that probably didn't know what flag football was 5 years ago, to now see these kind of countries at the World Championships, it's phenomenal to see that the growth. And obviously you maybe expect it in Canada, US, Mexico, because it's the base is there, but sport has grown in countries that you probably wouldn't have expected it to. For you as a player and someone who's given so much to the game, how much does that kind of make you happy that you see that kind of growth across the world?
It makes me really happy just getting to play against different countries. No one plays the sport the same. So I'm excited to be able to watch and play against different countries that I haven't played against in the past. So for sure, I think it's amazing. And I feel like it just makes the entire flag community better because we can feed off of each other and learn from our different playing styles. And it's just going to be more interesting to watch. And then once we get to the Olympics, everyone's going to be obsessed with flag. And then it has to come back for the Summer Olympics in 2032.
Yeah, we're hoping so. Excellent. In terms of, like, I'm not going to put you on the spot too much, but we're not going to kind of hold you to anything. But what's Team Canada's kind of goals and expectations for Dusseldorf? Have you kind of had that kind of sit down yet and had that chat yet?
Yeah. So I'm going to quote my coach. She said, "We're aiming for gold and nothing less."
Love it.
Yeah, I think we're going to do everything in our power to be the competitor. We're going to make statements. We're going to prove ourselves. And I'm excited to show the world what we've been up to when it comes to Dusseldorf for sure.
Yeah, I mean, people within the sport, like we say at Panama, we have seen what you can do. So it'd be great to flip that onto the world stage to kind of, like you say, kind of step up. So Canada, we are serious, we are here, and we are here to win, which will be phenomenal for us to watch because we just love watching the sports. The more teams that are kind of trying to break that USA and Mexico monopoly, like we've kind of said that the GB head coach Jack Reed has said we want to kind of break that monopoly. We want to kind of be the team that steps up, and I'm assuming, like yourself, so it'll be another team that kind of just wants to. No, it's no longer you two guys at the top. We are in that conversation as well.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. We're working really, really hard.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. No, that's it. And the outcome, we kind of mentioned it yourself. Teams at the World, where the top two will automatically qualify for early 2028, and there's obviously qualifying tournaments still to come. But I've asked you this question throughout this conversation tonight about different aspects about flag football at the Olympics. How crazy is that?
It's insane. It's insane. I still don't really grasp I'm speechless. It's crazy. I was just playing for fun as a kid, and now, first of all, I'm representing my country, but now we have the opportunity to qualify our country for the Olympics. Like, that is huge. And then when I talk about the Olympics, I always get so emotional and I get goosebumps, and I'm like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, I'm so excited to see what the future of flag looks like. I'm so excited to show off our sport to the entire world and make everyone appreciate what flag football looks like and how creative and fast and intense it is. And so insane. I was sitting at the dinner table with my family when I found out, and we were all crying around the table.
That's
It's
awesome.
incredible. Yeah, speechless.
Yeah. I think of all the effort you've put into this sport, not just as a player, but like that would just top off, and it just playing at the Olympics after all that hard work you've put in, that you can't really get, apart from maybe
Yeah.
winning the gold at the Olympics, but just that is the pinnacle. That pinnacle didn't exist when you started playing this game. That was never a goal. That was, you didn't start playing this sport because you wanted to play
Uh,
at the Olympics. That
mhm.
pinnacle now is going to give so much motivation to young boys and girls across the world to take up this sport, and for me that's phenomenal to see.
Yeah, it's like finally having the validation that our sport is worth putting forward. So it's really special for the flag football community.
Yeah, and let's hope, as we mentioned, that the sport has grown that much. Let's hope it's not one and done. Let's hope we get to 2032 in Brisbane, and it's there. And it gives me hope that the NFL are really pushing into Australia at the moment. So it gives me
Mhm.
a bit of hope that they're kind of thinking ahead. Let's start laying the ground now, because in 4 years' time, of 2032, we're going to be back here with flag football. So we're hoping that this is something that becomes a regular thing, because the Olympics will be back in the UK at some point in the near future. So we want to have the sport there, so we can go and watch it. So
Mhm.
excellent. Well, no, it's been phenomenal to chat to you about kind of that whole journey and where it's going to lead to for you. So hopefully we'll see you in Dusseldorf. Hopefully we'll see you in LA in 2020, because we're hoping to be there as well. We will be in Dusseldorf. We're hoping we will be in LA as well. It'd be top it all for us. This has been a remarkable episode. I've absolutely loved this. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on and allowing us to tell your story so far. I'm going to caveat that so far, because I know there's going to be so much more to come in your story, and we will have you back on to tell the rest of the story when it happens.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've had so much fun.
Perfect. Sarah, thank you for joining me in the chair tonight. This has been a phenomenal episode.
Yeah, listen, I just want to tell you, like, you are such, like, if you don't mind asking, how old are you? Like,
I'm
what? Oh wait, hold on. You said that literally and it cut out. That's so funny. It's the only time you've ever cut out tonight.
yeah. So I'm 26. I just turned 26.
26. I
Wow.
can't, like, like since you were 12. So what, we're looking at like 15 years? Is that 15 years? That's
About
like no time at all to, like, and I just can't believe how young you are, but how much you've grown and achieved already, and how much that's going to continue to develop. Like, you're such like a inspiration and a model for the sport. And I really hope anybody like who's young, who's watching this and listening to you, just takes like all of this on board, because you are absolutely incredible as a person. And I hope you know how incredible you are as well.
Thank you. That means so much.
Yeah, you said earlier on, Sarah, yourself, that you didn't have a role model to look up to. You didn't have that female flag football athlete. I'll tell you right now, you are that now. What you have done in this sport, you've created a legacy already, and you're still in the peak of your career. So I cannot wait to see what goes next and what comes next. And good luck to you and Team Canada and all your country and everything when the Worlds come around in a couple of months' time.
Wow, thanks guys. But I'm really
Nah.
grateful for you guys. Well, for first of all inviting me on, and also for giving another platform for athletes like me to come and chat about our experiences, and giving us the opportunity to share for everyone else to listen. So thank you guys for having me again.
No, we appreciate those kind words. And what we didn't tell you to start is, now you've been on once, actually you're captured. We've got you forever. So anytime we need you, we're going
Yeah.
to come back to you.
And if you want to know that, talk to the Team GB girls, because all we do is phone them up like, hiya, do you want to come back and do an episode? Do you want to come back? They go, okay. So yeah, you'll be back before you know it, probably. Don't hold your breath. We'll be back. We'll be back. We'll say that.
To those that are watching and listening to this phenomenal episode, thank you very much. We hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and all podcast platforms to catch all the future episodes. Until next time, we'll see you soon.